On the Real Journey show, you can expect to hear about a real journey. The listeners will be reminded that life experiences have a compelling way of connecting us, inspiring us, and empowering us to stay real. Welcome back to the Real Journey show. I am Tara Martin, your host, and this is episode 31, Rejection or Redirection. I know. That's a jagged pill to swallow. I absolutely hate being rejected. Like, for real, I do not like it. I do not like being told no. I do not like feeling like I'm not good enough. I do not like missing an opportunity at a job or an interview. I want to be the winner. I want to be the one on top. I also absolutely cannot stand being ghosted. Oh, by the way, I just watched the show Ghosted this weekend, and that's a really good show. But side note, you should go check it out if you haven't already. Ghosting, I do just say something. Just say like I never want to talk to you again, but respond in some way. Just don't leave it blank for me to interpret and build an entire scenario or an entire conversation that was never had in my head of what I think you wanted to say. So, rejection, I don't like it. I mean, I love rejection. Who said that? No human ever. Who loves being put down? Who loves being turned away? Who loves hearing no when they put something out there and really hope for it to be accepted? No one. None of us, right? But it is a part of the L and real. It's a part of learning through life. And I wonder, are these no's really rejection or are they redirection? Give me a minute here. Think about some of the most famous people who have experienced a lot of rejection. One that comes to mind is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. That's bananas. He went on to be a legendary basketball player. I remember being in high school and trying out for teams and really just could not wait to see if I made the team. And luckily, I was never rejected from my high school teams that I tried out for. But I can't imagine Michael Jordan being rejected. That's wild to me. Or as a writer, I think about J.K. Rowling's and her first Harry Potter book. That sucker was turned down 12 times before she got it published. Was she rejected? No. She was redirected to where she needed to be for that book to become a number one bestseller and series of books to come after it, movies. She's set, right? Rejection or is it redirection? That's what I want to think about a little bit today. I think about job interviews that I didn't get as a aspiring administrator. I applied for a couple of jobs, but one particularly, this middle school assistant principal. I wanted that job so bad. And I thought I was the best candidate for it. I really did. I was like, there's no way I'm not getting this. I'm putting it all out there. I made it down to the final two. And even after the final two, I still felt really confident that I was going to get that job. And I didn't. I got the call back and it was a no. It was a rejection. But I later went on to get an administrator role at the district level in a neighboring district that I didn't really even have the qualifications for because you were supposed to be a building principal for a few years before you moved into that role. But they took a chance on me. I made it through all the series of interviews. I think there were four. And I remember thinking, this is it. Like, this is the fit for me. I was going to be starting an instructional coaching program from the ground up. I got to work with the most amazing humans under the most incredible superintendent I have ever worked for. And it turned out to be such a beautiful fit for me. That rejection for the middle school principal led me to the administrator role that I can't imagine not having in my life. I still use so many things I learned from Dr. McWilliams in my life today in the role that I'm doing every single day that I never would have experienced if I didn't go there. I don't know that I would have experienced them in the way that I did. And so I was redirected to something much more fitting for me. And time again, I've found this in my life, even as a little girl who was born of two teenagers who didn't want to have children. Obviously, they were still in high school. I was considered a mistake, and they made sure that I knew that was exactly what I was. I grew up in an abusive, unsafe home life. I wouldn't wish that childhood on anyone, honestly, on any child. And I remember feeling often very rejected and wondering, why am I even here? If Like, why did I get to live? Especially when I get to those middle school years and high school years. I'm like, I'm never going to make it out of this. And I don't even, no one wants me here. But even through all of that rejection, there were teachers, there were coaches, there were mentors in my life to constantly remind me of my purpose, my strengths, my talents, that I was greater than my current circumstances. I was meant for better things. And because of all of that redirection in my life, I was able to overcome, to do something different, to train my brain to think in a different way, not just training it to think positive, but building new synapses in my mind that helps me to realize, are you really rejected, T, or are you being redirected? But had I not experienced that level of rejection, I would not be able to serve the people I have had the opportunities to serve in the way that I have, because I was able to develop so many levels of empathy through that experience. And I think that happens so many times in our life. Rejection or redirection. It's just a way of thinking of it, right? If you think back to your last rejection, were you shown or directed to something different or better for you afterward? It's wild to think about. But I have had this topic on my mind of late because of my new role with Dave Burgess Consulting Inc. I have worked for Dave Burgess Consulting Inc. for almost 6 years, and mostly as the director of PR and communications. I now serve as the director of publishing, and it's such a fun role. I get to work with authors from the onset of the pitch of the idea of their book to interviewing the prospective author, to the process of deciding if we're going to take the book or not in our line, then all through the developmental phase of it, working with the author and with the editing team, and then later to launching the book out into the world. So it is a big role, and I love it on every level. But there is one part of the new responsibilities that is very challenging, and that is being the one that has to share the news if we decide not to take the manuscript or the book project with our line. It is so hard to do that. I honestly hope that I never lose this feeling of of sadness when we turn away a project, because I know that at that point that I will have lost a little bit of that softness inside of my heart. But it is so challenging. This past week, I reached out to one of my friends who's a former superintendent, and I asked him, I said, how did you get good given these rejections? Because it is so hard. It weighs on my heart so heavily because the projects are good. That's the problem. It's rarely, pretty much never, that the book project isn't good. That's the thing. We just literally cannot take all of them. If the way our company works, we fund everything in production. The author, there's no money out of their pockets. Once they sign on, they write the book, send it over. We send it to our production team. We have top-notch editors. It goes through developmental editing, copy editing, layout, design, all the things. And as soon as it publishes, the author starts making over 50% of the profit immediately. And we make 45 or less. And that said, we cannot afford to take every project that's pitched to us. It's impossible. So we have a parameter, we have a brand that we work around. And as a team, we decide which projects are going to be taken, which are not going to be taken this time. And it can be a number of reasons. One, it could be it competes with another project we have. We have something else coming down the line that's very similar. We try to get projects that complement each other but don't compete with each other. And then we have a whole brand for like a filter of how we run each project through. And every single author gets to interview with me at the very onset of the process to learn all about that brand before they ever submit their manuscript. So that said, we can't possibly take all the projects. I wish so much that we could, but we can't afford it. It would be not wise as a company to do that. And so we have to turn away a lot of them. And I am the one who has to bear that news. So I asked my friend, the former superintendent, how did you get good at rejecting? Because I'm sure he had to make a bunch of no's, tell a bunch of no's to future principals, future administrators, anyone applying for roles within the district, be a part of those teams that made those decisions. And I told him, I hate being a dream crusher. I love pushing people to chase their dreams, to make them come true. I don't want to be a dream crusher. I hate it. And he said, T, you're not a dream crusher. You're helping that individual to grow, to learn, to challenge themselves, to discover new possibilities. They can take this no and feel rejected, or they can take this no and be better for it. And I couldn't believe my ears, but I started thinking about this topic. Is it rejection or is it redirection? Maybe I'm not really rejecting these people. I'm just redirecting them in another way. And that's what I say at the end of those emails. I often try to tell them, please get this work out there. It is good. It's just not for us at this time. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be out there. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be a published work. It just can't be with our line at this time. And he gave me some really great feedback on always keeping it real with the people. Give them solid feedback, share with them why you chose not to take it, and then never lose your compassion for others, because that is what sets us apart as leaders. Some are very compassionate and lead from the heart, and there's some that just don't. And those that do, we don't want to lose that. It's important. I'm all about educating from the heart. It's the same with leadership, leading from the heart. It's the same in publishing, making decisions from the heart and never losing that. And there are times, like I did on Friday afternoon, When I got to the grocery store parking lot, I just sat in my car and cried for 20 minutes straight because I had to say no to a lot of really great projects. And it broke my heart in half to think about how that person might feel. But I'm hoping that out there, if you are feeling this rejection, you are feeling as if that no is a jagged pill to swallow, that you could potentially change the way you think. Allow your mind to see it as a redirection. Maybe it's redirecting us to grow and to learn and to get some more experience, because my goodness, have I ever heard those words, and I didn't want to hear them. I told you that at the onset, but they made me better. And I got better and I grew and I got positions that I never dreamt I would hold. And I was able to accomplish things that little mistake never believed she could one day accomplish. I was redirected. I wasn't rejected, really. I was redirected to something better. So if you're out there and you're feeling this feeling of rejection, of defeat, of wondering if you're good enough or if your work is good enough, or if you're ever going to get that role that you've been applying for, or that person that you're hoping to marry one day. So are you feeling rejected? Try viewing it as redirection. Just think back to your last rejection and count all of the many opportunities life has tossed your way from that point in time until now. Maybe it was redirection all along. So rejection or redirection, you choose. Thank you for joining the Real Journey Show. I hope you'll join us back next week.